welcome to episode 28 of the Loop and Bar podcast. My name's Kate and I'm coming to you from North Wales in the UK. It is a beautiful frosty morning, although the frost has lifted now, but it was lovely and frosty when we got up this morning. And Charlie and I went for a little walk before breakfast. I didn't get any footage of the frost because I'd only just got up and I couldn't be bothered. I took my camera with me, but I think my hands are a bit too cold as well. Because I got my mittens out of the car, which was not a very good idea because they were freezing, so when I put them on my hands got even colder than they already were. So that wasn't a very good idea. So I just kept my hands in my pockets and I didn't take any footage, but I might take the camera out later when we go for our walk, when I've finished recording the podcast episode, because it's such a lovely day. I might take the camera out later and get a little bit of footage, maybe not, don't know. Depends on, oh no, maybe I won't. Yes, depends on if, no I won't, because the thingy will be uploading, so I won't have the memory card. I don't know, we'll see. That's an excellent start to the podcast. Okay, it is nearly the end of October. It's Monday, it's the 30th of October, looking on my lovely Valerian LeBlond calendar. She's got a new one out. I might be ordering it. Valerian LeBlond on Etsy. What else do I need to tell you? I'm not thinking very clearly this morning because I feel a bit tired. So I've got a bit of a foggy brain. Just drinking some tea, but it's decaffeinated. I could probably do with a caffeinated tea, to be honest with you. But I'm trying not to drink too much caffeine at the moment. One tea that I'm really enjoying, I'll show you this right now actually, because I think I'll forget otherwise, is Apple and Cinnamon by Heath and Heather. I brought the box up to show you. I've got the camera on a new setting, so we're just going to have to see how this turns out because I know I'm a bit further away today. I did that on purpose so that I'll be able to show you what I'm wearing. Bit of a spoiler for a bit further ahead in the podcast. Anyway, Heath and Heather. They're a really nice tea company and I like this apple and cinnamon tea that they do. It smells delicious and it's perfect for the autumn. That's not what I've got in there though. I just wanted to show you this because that's what I've been drinking a lot this week. I'll probably have one of those later. It's to warm and uplift naturally, and it really does. It's gorgeous. Okay, I haven't got a massive amount to show you today. Having said that, I've got a little finished object that you haven't even seen started. Progress on my Selbu mittens, which I'm feeling excited about. Some new bags to show you. I've been using brand new fabrics, so something really new to show you. Or you've seen the fabrics in the last podcast, but I've made them into bags now, so that's an Etsy shop update. Something else I've been sewing with the fabric, which I'm really excited about. And I've started a new jumper. I don't know if you can see me playing with the pom-pom. I'm not sure how much you can see actually when I'm sat down, but I'll show you that right now in case you've seen it and you're wondering what I'm doing. You might recognise this pom-pom. By the way, I think I've just dived straight into the podcast. I don't think I ever bother saying, or not very often, where you can find me on social media. If you do want to find me on social media, I'm Kate. No, I'm not. My name's Kate. No. Right, Instagram, it's loopandbar.kb. And for ages I was getting that, when I got my new phone a few weeks ago, I've got an iPhone now, I've ventured into the world of iPhones. When I got my iPhone, because my other phone broke basically, the lady wanted me to log into my Instagram so she could do something, syncing, something or other, I don't know. Something. She did it all for me. Anyway, she said just log in, and I was trying to log in, and because of course on my old phone I'm just permanently logged in, so I don't really have to actually remember my login details. Anyway, I can actually remember my password, which is a miracle, but I got my login wrong because I was putting Lupenbar KB. I was missing out the dot. So anyway, that was slightly pointless telling you that. But if you want to find me on Instagram, I am lupenbar.kb. I've had lots of new followers lately on Instagram, which is lovely. So if you have just started following me on Instagram, thank you very much and welcome. And there is a Ravelry group. I have to say I have not been very active in the Ravelry group in the last few weeks. Although the Ravelry group has been active. Other people, the lovely regular ladies in there have been continuing the chatter, and I've dipped in once or twice. I hope everybody forgives me. I feel like I say this all the time actually, but I think I try to do too many things. I've totally gone off the tangent from the pom-pom. I'll get back to that, by the way. God, I'm all over the place this morning. Okay, so Ravelry, I just want to say about Ravelry. If you're in the Ravelry group, especially if you're one of my lovely regular Ravelry group members, first of all, hi, and second of all, I'm so sorry that I'm not in there at the moment very often. I did put a little message in there to say we've had lots and lots and lots of stuff going on that's not Lupenbar related, you know, just life stuff. And you know, it's all okay, but it's taken up lots and lots of time and energy. I had a few weeks of appointments. Like I say, everything's fine, there's nothing to worry about. But it took a lot of time out of, well, a few weeks really. I had to do lots and lots of driving, and took quite a lot of my energy as well. Driving takes away a lot of my energy because you've got to concentrate hard to drive, and I find it very hard to concentrate, as you may have noticed already in the first few minutes of this podcast episode. And so if I have to concentrate for a very long period of time, which in this case it was an hour and a half drive there and an hour and a half drive back, that makes me really tired. And sometimes I had to get up quite early for those appointments as well. So I just put my energies into once I'd got home, it was usually mid-afternoon, and trying to carry on a little bit with the sewing and the things in the craft room for Lupenbar, for the Etsy shop, and walking the dog and trying to see friends. I've been trying to do that a little bit more often as well, because I don't think I do that often enough, and I've got friends on my doorstep. I mean, not literally, I have to get in the car and drive to see them, but again, all of that takes up time and energy, but that's all positive stuff that I want to do more of. So it's meant that a few things have had to fall by the wayside a little bit, although that's not quite the right phrase to use. But just haven't been able to do everything. So I've been rubbish at putting any photographs on to Ravelry, but I'm hoping to rectify that soon. I say that every podcast episode as well. But anyway, so I'm really sorry to my regular ladies in the Ravelry group if I haven't been in there very often. And if you're new into the Ravelry group, I know there's a couple of new members in there. The Ravelry group, by the way, is just Lupenbar. If you go into Ravelry and search in the groups tab, it's Lupenbar. And I will be back in there a bit more regularly. We're getting back into a routine now. I'll give you a bit more of a life update further on in the podcast, maybe, if I remember. What was I saying about Ravelry? If you are new in there, welcome to the Ravelry group. I noticed a few new members starting to interact in the Knit Lounge, which is lovely. And what I totally forgot to say last episode was, and that ties in with the pom-pom, the hats that I showed you as finished objects in the last episode, I actually knitted them for a hat-along, and I'm so sorry to Jo and the other ladies that are running and interacting and taking part in the hat-along, because that is why I knitted the hat. I have obviously knitted it and finished it, and I've been wearing it, but I haven't posted any pictures of it in the Ravelry thread, so I'm going to do that this afternoon. I'm going to make a solemn promise that I will take some photographs this afternoon. I might even do a screenshot from the last podcast episode and pop that in. And I've got to put a few more things in there as well, including what I'm wearing, which I'll talk about in a while. But if you recognise this pom-pom from the last episode, it's absolutely giant. It was on top of this hat. And as you can see, I've replaced the pom-pom. So this is my Woodsy hat by Mandarins. I'm only going to show this very briefly because I showed it properly in the previous episode. So if you want to know any more about it and see it properly, pop back to the previous episode if you haven't seen that. But this is my Woodsy hat, and it did have that pom-pom on it, which did look marvellous, and it looked pretty good when it was on my head. But in practical terms, when I was actually wearing it, walking up and down the farm, up the hill, you know, your head's bobbing a little bit, and it was too heavy in the end for the hat, 'cause it's only a lightweight hat. So, and luckily I'd got this tip from, did I get it from Danny off Little Bobbins? Ages and ages ago, like, I don't know, a year ago, at least a year ago, I saw on one of her episodes, when she makes a pom-pom and puts it on a hat, I'm sure it was Danny off Little Bobbins, and she got it off another podcast, but I'm not sure who she's got this off. I literally just leave a long end like that. That's not very long, that long. Two of them. You know, that's the end that you've used to tie around the pom-pom when you're making it. And then just thread those two through and just tie a bow. And then, so I didn't even have to cut or unravel anything, I just undid the bow to take that one off, the giant pom-pom, and then made a new one, whipped it up in 5 minutes on my little nifty pom-pom maker, which I showed you in the last episode, and made a much more sensible pom-pom for it. So I'm much more happy with that now, and it doesn't pull the hat off my head, because that's not very practical when you want the hat to stay on your head and keep your head warm. I wore that hat on Friday night because Avian and myself went to a party, which is highly unusual for me because I am a bit of a hermit. But our friends who live down the road, Tom and Sarah, I've showed things that I've made for their little girl and boy on the podcast before, including 2 little donkey finger puppets. So if you're a long-term viewer, you may remember I made some little finger puppets because they've got donkeys on their farm. Anyway, they have a little holiday cottage type. It's like a little red brick building that used to house a water pump or a water engine, and it sits right by the river on their land. You have to sort of walk through a little a trail to get to it, and Tom and some of his friends actually converted it. They took all of the engine and machinery and everything out of it, and they installed a beautiful little French wood burner and furnished it with a lovely big double bed. They've put a little slate cool box underneath the floorboards so that you can use that as a fridge. And there's a sort of really lovely old antique sideboard that they've put a sink into as well. And so basically it's not exactly glamping, but it's more like a couple's retreat, if you like. It will only really fit single people or couples in. It's a very romantic little getaway, kind of a step up from camping because you're in a little brick hut basically. And they've got, this is the pearl in the crown, jewel in the crown, the icing on the cake is that they've got 2 bathtubs next to each other, and they're sort of bedded into a sort of slate, how do you say it? Not a stand, but anyway, they're outside. You just walk up the track a little bit, you're still by the river, and the bathtubs are outside. So, and the bathtubs are fed by a huge water tank that is heated with natural fuel. So I think it's either biofuel or just wood. I'm not sure quite how it works, but Tom and Sarah will get all of that fired up before guests arrive, and so that there's steaming hot water, and you just turn on the taps. They just work like your normal bathroom taps. You turn on the taps and you're able to have a bath next to each other, one in one, bath one in the other. Glass of champagne if you like, or a hot cup of cocoa if that's your thing. Under the stars, al fresco. So it's a lot of fun. I haven't had a bath there yet, but I fully intend to do that but it's a bit chilly at the moment. However, I think that's part of the fun actually, having a nice hot bath when it's chilly outside. Anyway, they have been open all season for their guests, and they've been really busy with bookings, but now that the weather's become chillier, it's the end of October, I think they've just had their last guests in, and they're closing it up for the season now, ready for for the winter. It's a bit too chilly for anyone to stay in it over the winter, so they'll reopen it in the spring. But they had a big party to celebrate. So they lit the whole area because it's off the grid, there's no electricity there, but they brought loads of cables up and they lit the whole area with kind of those outdoor lanterns that were strung all in the trees. They made a really lovely big fire. They had a giant barbecue, kind of 2 half barrels made into a massive barbecue, and they fed everybody with lamb burgers, the lamb from Tom's Farm, so it was just so fresh and so beautiful. They filled the bathtubs with cold water and put all the beer in it, which Avion took full advantage of, I've got to say. I was the designated driver, which is totally fine, not really that into drinking anyway, so I was quite happy with orange juice, and I kept being brought cups of tea, which was lovely. Kept me awake actually till 1 in the morning, which is when we finally left. My tea's gone cold. And one of the most lovely things about it, apart from the fact that it was absolutely just so lovely to be outdoors after all the rain, the weeks and weeks of rain that we've had. We were outdoors under the stars with a fire going, with some good food, with good company. We had some music. They'd rigged up a generator with some with a stereo with a mix of good music on, so brilliant atmosphere. And there's quite a few people there. And a lot of the people are people I know, who are like my friends, like my circle of friends that I've made since I've moved to Wales. So I really enjoyed that. it wasn't my party, there were a few people from my knitting group there, which was amazing, including my really good friend Eva, and Avion's cousin Neris. So that was really lovely. We basically sat together all evening under a blanket next to the fire and just chatted and talked about wool and other stuff. And Avion had lots of fun. Yeah, so that was brilliant. So that was what we did on Friday night, and then we were really tired on Saturday, so we didn't do very much. Can't even really remember what we did on Saturday. We walked Charlie. Yeah, don't know. I probably did a few things, but I can't really remember what we did. I knitted a lot. I knitted the stuff that I'm going to show you next. And then Saturday night, Avion went to the pub again. I stayed in and watched the Harry Potter History of Magic. I was really looking forward to watching that, but I thought it was going to be more about the actual history of magic. But it was mainly just showing you stuff that's going to go into an exhibition, into a museum, all about Harry Potter, which is tied in with the history of magic, but it's sort of, a lot of it's tied in with Harry Potter sort of thing. If you saw it, you'll know what I mean. So it was okay. There was actually a more interesting programme on after that, which I didn't know was on. I just happened to catch it, which I've forgotten what it was called now, but it was about sort of, was he the founder of the Wicca religion? Have I completely got that wrong? There was a guy in the 1920s who had a real interest in magic and the occult. And I'm talking about this really because it's nearly Halloween. I love Harry Potter, I love magical things like that. I'm not of any religion at all, but I just find it really fascinating and intriguing and magical. And so I watched that, and I just found it really interesting actually. And what I didn't realise was that the Wiccan religion, as we know it, I think was founded by this guy that was the main focus of the programme, which I can't remember what the programme was called or who he was called anyway. If you're interested, you might be able to catch it on iPlayer. It was on Saturday night at about 9 o'clock, or maybe it was at 10 o'clock, I'm not sure. Aren't I brilliant at giving information? So that's Saturday night, and then I went to bed. And what did we do on Sunday? Avion didn't do a heck of a lot on Sunday because he'd stayed at the pub till 1:30, so he had 2 very late nights and lots of beer. and I did quite a bit of sewing, knitting, and what did I do yesterday? We've just had a really relaxing weekend. I think I was tired from the late nights anyway, and Avion woke me up coming in on Saturday. I will get to some knitting in a minute. I think I'm just having a little chat with you first. What was I going to say? Sunday night, last night we watched the most amazing film. I've forgotten to bring it up, so I can't show you the thingy, the cover of it. But if you've never seen this film, it's called Hidden Figures. It is amazing. It's about 3 women. It focuses on 3 women who worked at NASA in the 1960s, and it shows how they were pioneers, really, for lots of different reasons. The work that they did there was absolutely amazing, but they were kept down, if you like, or sort of seen as not being important for various reasons. And if you watch the film, or if you go and look it up, it's absolutely amazing. It's so empowering to watch. It's a PG, like if I'm going to watch a film I have to make sure that there's no violence, nothing traumatic. I don't like anything like that. But there's, you know, this film is, you can watch this with kids, older kids that would be easy, that would be able to understand the issues really as well. But it's a wonderful, wonderful film to watch, so I definitely recommend. It's about sort of showing how women can be empowered against all the odds really, and what work they put into putting a man into space basically. It's brilliant. Can't remember any of the actors' names, not very good at that. But it's called Hidden Figures, definitely recommend it, totally loved it, had a little cry at the end out of happiness. Brilliant. I'm going to show you some knitting, so I've just talked for ages. I've showed you a pom-pom that you've already seen. I'm going to show you a finished object. I don't really usually call them things like that on my podcast, do I? But I'm going to show you something that I've finished. You might have just seen a glimpse of it. You haven't even seen the start of this project, and I've completely forgotten to bring the yarn label, but I'll just tell you. I can see it, it's over there. It's Sirdar Snuggly. Right, okay, the yarn that I've used is Sirdar Snuggly. I've used it before on a podcast. I don't even know why I had this full ball of this yarn left in my stash. It doesn't make any sense because I'm sure I've used it before. Maybe I bought 2 balls in the past and made something with it and didn't need the second ball. That's the only thing I can think of. Got it from my local yarn shop. Anyway, I've made a little jumper for our newest nephew, Tom. I've showed a little jumper that I made him before on the podcast, but he's nearly outgrown it now. His mum's still sort of stretching the buttons over his body, but he's starting to sort of pop out of it a bit. So I've made him something a little bit different and a little bit bigger and in a different colour. And here it is. So this is the Spring Break jumper or pullover by Gabrielle Dansknit. There you go, I'll show you. Hang on, it'd be better if I showed you the whole page. No. Yeah, that's fine to show you. Okay, so there's the pattern page. My print is not very good, so I always say this again, but it hasn't printed out with very nice colours. It's not done a very good job of printing, but you get the impression, and that's the one that I've made. I don't feel like I'm very articulate today. You'll have to just forgive me for that. I feel a bit out of practice. It's been a few weeks. Okay, so as you can see, the whole front is kind of a flap. Is that the right word? So you can undo the buttons. I'll just do one side so that you can see, just to demonstrate. And that the other side obviously undoes as well, which is going to make it really easy to put on your baby. Tom is, I think, 4 months old or 4.5 months old, and I've done the 3 to 6 month size here. I'll show you the back, but it's got a texture on the back, but the pattern hasn't got this texture. It really should just be stocking stitch all the way around. But what happened was, the construction of this jumper is pretty interesting actually. You knit, I won't give too much away, but you knit the front flap first separately, and then you knit the back and the arms separately, so you've got the front flap on holders. And then there's a complicated set of instructions that tells you how to, once you get to this point here, it tells you how to join the whole thing together so that the flap sits in front and does this. Oh, can I show you this very well? Don't know what that looks like, but so you've got sort of the 2 garter stitch bands. The front one needs to lay on top of the bottom one. The top one needs to lay on top of the bottom one. I have got to say, there's nothing wrong with the instructions at all, but I found them really hard to follow because I'm not very good at reading lots of information and then actually acting on it all in one go. I mean, it has to be literally like a small sentence, bullet pointed, if I'm going to be able to follow it. So, but it's not a criticism of the pattern whatsoever. I think it's just that I just don't read things properly. There were a few points in the pattern where I thought the pattern had been miswritten, but then later on I went back and read it again. I simply just haven't read it properly. That's definitely something that is a trait of mine, unfortunately. So I just have to remember to take things slowly and reread things a lot. But I couldn't quite get my head around the instructions. I've managed it though, as you can see, because it is sitting quite nicely. I think I did knit this part a bit too long because there's a tiny bit of a bulge there, but I think once it's on him, because he's a little chunky baby, once the jumper's on him that's not going to show anyway, so I'm not worried about that. But what happened was, once I got to this part here, you join all the pieces together and you knit in the round, and that's the start of you then knitting the rest of the body just downwards in the round, and that's simple stockinette stitch. But unfortunately, with the amount of concentration going on to get these bits attached in the right way, I forgot to knit correctly. I forgot to basically knit, should have just knit that instead of gartered it, or the other way around, whichever way. So accidentally I produced a line of garter stitch and didn't realise until a couple of rows later. So I couldn't face undoing it and redoing this bit here because I'd got it just how I wanted it. So I just knit some garter stitch over a few rows, which I think actually looks really nice. I think it gives it a nice texture. So that's alright. That's no problem. I think it looks quite nice. And the buttons I got from my local yarn store, which are really, really sweet. I think that Larry, who is the baby's mum, is going to really love the buttons because she really likes bright colours, she likes yellows and oranges, and so I think it gives it a really nice pop of colour and it looks really sort of jolly. So I'm looking forward to giving that to Tom. I'll probably try and get that to them in the next few days because it's got really chilly. I've kept it short sleeve. You can do a long sleeve version. I've kept this short sleeve because he's a warm little baby. He's always really warm whenever he comes around and we cuddle him. It's really warm, and he's always got a long sleeve baby grow on. So, and if he's out, if he's going anywhere, Larry puts a big like onesie fleecy suit thing over him anyway. So I think for him to wear in the house, a short sleeve one is perfectly fine for him. I think that's just lovely enough to keep his body cosy without making him too hot. Maybe nearer to once it gets deeper into winter, I might knit him a long sleeve one or a cardigan if Larry would like. So that's that one. So that's just to reiterate that one. That's Spring Break by Gabrielle Danznit, I think. There we are. Hopefully you've seen that. If not, when I'm editing it, if that didn't show up, I'll put it here. I really enjoyed the pattern, I totally recommend it. It's made a really beautiful little jumper, and I'm thinking, obviously you could make this for girls or boys. I'm just thinking that you could probably do some motif on there if you wanted to, some intarsia, some textures. You could incorporate a cable. You could make it how you want it really. If you've got the basic pattern, you could sort of modify it and make it make several different versions of it, so perhaps I might try that as well. Okay, I'm just going to quickly show you. You've seen this on the podcast before if you've been watching for a long time, I think, but this is my great big woolly moss stitch jumper. I'm just going to go back. Oh, the doors, I haven't tidied up very well. Oh, my doors are open, I don't know if you can see that. I've started wearing this now because it's got really cold. Oh, I'm knocking the plants. Okay, I showed it on the podcast ages ago. I can't really remember any details about it. It's a made-up jumper, so it's not a pattern. I followed the instructions from the Fringe Association website on how to improvise a top-down in the round jumper, and I used double moss stitch. So that's the jumper. I've been wearing it because it's so lovely and warm. The only thing about it is, you might be able to tell, that the neckline is really wide, which kind of defeats the object for me of having a really, really lovely, snuggly, warm jumper. So, something I'm going to do hopefully this week, because I've got a couple of balls of the yarn left. It's made in Drops Alaska. Put that there for you. Is I'm going to undo the neck. I think that was something that I put on at the end. Yeah, I picked up the stitches and put the neckline on. So I'm going to be undoing the rib on the neck, putting the stitches back onto the needles and knitting the neckline in. I'm probably even going to knit it up into a polar neck, I think. I don't have any polar neck jumpers, which is ridiculous. I'm knitting one now actually, which I'm going to show you a bit further in the podcast, but that's an old whip, but a finished object, but I'm going to be modifying it and adding to it. So that's a job I'm going to be doing this week. Don't know if I'll show that again on the podcast. I might just show you it when it's done. I might just put it on Instagram. But that's a job I really want to do, and I'd like to do that with the other jumper that I made last Christmas, which was, if you remember it, pale grey with the Christmas trees. It was out of the Knitting magazine. Love it. I've had it on this morning earlier to take the dog for a walk, but I definitely need, it's really heavy and it feels, when I wear it, it feels like it's being pulled off my shoulders. So I want to, again, attach some more yarn and just knit it up into a polar neck. I think it will just help it sit better on my shoulders and also make me warmer. So there's a couple of snuggly modifications that I need to do to existing jumpers. Oh my gosh, I'm going to talk about this. There's a danger if I don't talk about this now that I'll completely forget to talk about it, which is ridiculous, and I've totally forgotten to look, although I think I remember. I know what it's called. Okay, finished object. You've probably already seen it because I've just been wearing it for about half an hour while I've been talking about other things. This is my, and it's now got a name, Merly jumper. I think that's how you say it. I'll put it here. By Julia Vianitz. She's Julia Vianitz on Instagram and on Ravelry, and she has now released a pattern for this beautiful, beautiful jumper. So I'll just stand up, just move my stool. I think I'm going to have to go on tiptoes to show you all of it. So I'll try my best. There's the back, if you can see it. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's got a beautiful cable. I'll just come closer. No idea what you're seeing, so hopefully you're seeing a nice shot of this beautiful cable. Forgotten to get the yarn. Actually, haven't got a full skein of it left anyway. I'm definitely going to put the details of this jumper onto Ravelry in my pattern project pages and link it to Julia, the designer. That's something I'll do this afternoon as well. What was the other thing I was going to do? Oh yes, put the hat onto the hat along. I'm going to do some Ravelry stuff this afternoon. Totally love this jumper. It's actually already gone wobbly because I've been wearing it so much. So I might need to get my little de-bobbler out. You can probably see here. Got a few bobbles already. Just love it. The size of it is perfect. Everything about it is totally perfect, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to knit another one in a different yarn. I might even knit another one and make it, if it's possible, into a polar neck. Because I think you do, yeah, you do. You knit the neckline last. You pick up the stitches and knit it last. So I think it'd be possible to modify it into a polar neck, which I think would be really snuggly as well. I'm just looking in the mirror at my jumper. I love it. I love it. I love the neckline. It's perfect. Like I was just saying with the previous jumper I just showed you, that's way too wide. This one, perfect. Because I don't like it, unless they're a polar neck, I don't like it when the jumper's too tight either. I hate it. I don't like it when it's tight against you here. This neckline is perfect. It just comes down. It's got the right amount of scoop. And it's really warm. And I wore this to the party. It kept me so toasty. I actually wore this one with that moss stitch one over it underneath my North Face coat, which is feather filled. And I had 3 scarves on and that hat. And woolly tights underneath my jeans and toe warmers in my wellies. So it was really toasty. It was my lovely warm layer. So I can't recommend this pattern enough. It's really fun to knit. It's quick to knit. Nice and simple, lovely bit of cable detail which becomes quite instinctive as you're knitting it, and you can modify it if you want. You can make it shorter or longer. Like I say, I'm going to maybe have another go doing a polar neck. Yeah, love it. So I'm really pleased with this. The next jumper I'm knitting, finally I've cast on the jumper that I've been saying that I'm going to knit for ages and ages. There might be some needle clanging here, maybe I can avoid it. So I've just briefly gone into this before on the podcast. So I'm using, I'll show the yarn first. I've showed it before, I'll just show you it quickly. I'm using the Cascade 220 Superwash in this beautiful green, deep green colour. Don't know what the colour's called, can't remember, but it's colour number 208 if you want to know. I'm loving it. I'm loving using it. It's really soft and I just love this green. So the jumper is the Oscuro sweater. I haven't got a brilliant print out of it, but that's the front of the pattern page. And I can show you that too. That's not going to reveal anything that it shouldn't. Not sure really how well it will show up. That's the designer, I think. She is Sarah Shepherd Makes. I posted in Instagram. I posted a picture on Instagram of the sleeve, when I started it. And I completely tagged the wrong Sarah Shepherd, so sorry about that if you're watching, or I don't know if anybody noticed. She did let me know, wrong Sarah. I sort of suspected that I'd done that once I'd done it, but hey, that's okay. The proper Sarah Shepherd also gave me a smiley face as well, so that was okay. It was all okay in the end. So she's Sarah Shepherd Makes .com, that's her website. This pattern I've got on Ravelry. She's Sarah Shepherd Makes on Instagram. There might be an underscore somewhere. I'll look it up and I'll put it here. But actually, just look her up on Ravelry because, yeah, the Oscuro sweater, if you find that on Ravelry, then you will find Sarah Shepherd Makes. And here, I'm going to put a picture of the jumper in here. Just because that isn't a very good picture to show you, so you probably don't really know what it's going to look like. So I'll just show you a proper picture of it and I'll insert it. And here is the first part of my jumper. This jumper is knitted in sections for a change, because the last projects, like the last year or 2 years of knitting that I've done, everything has been top down in the round. Postman's arrived. Bet he's going to bring my apple corer. Talk about that in a minute. Everything that I've knit in the last couple of years has been top down in the round, but this one's knit in sections, which I'm quite excited about actually. So this is the first sleeve. It's a little bit curled because we've got a nice mixture of moss stitch and a bit of garter and a bit of stocking stitch. I'm nearly at the part, I've got to knit maybe about another inch, and then I'll start doing the sleeve shaping for the shoulder at the top there. Really pleased with my cast on. I did a tubular cast on, so I've got a really lovely cast on edge. And the nice thing about it is because you knit from the sleeve upwards, I'm going to be able to do this on both sleeves. There you go, needles clanging. I'm really pleased with this. It's going to be a really nice snug fit, I think. It's going to be hard to show you because I've got a jumper on, so it won't really work very well, but cause it's going to look like it's too small, but it's not because I've obviously got a jumper on under here. But that's how it will be seamed. So the moss stitch comes together to form a nice band of moss stitch under the arm. Obviously it'll fit better when I haven't got my jumper on. Yeah, so we've got to about there so far. So I've got to knit a bit more, and then there's some sleeve shaping to do, then I'll do the other one. Some needles hitting the table. I'm using Knit Pro Zing 3.75s circulars, but it's obviously not knit in the round, but I just like using circulars. There we go. Got these from my local yarn store, and that's all I've got to show you, I think, on that, because it's just a case of knitting the rest of the sleeve, doing the second sleeve. It's gone quite quickly actually. It's a really intuitive pattern once you've got the hang of it. Once you've got your little stitch markers set up to show you which sections you've got. So I've got a moss stitch section there, and then stocking stitch, and then another moss stitch section. You can just knit away. You just have to make sure you remember to do your increases at the times when she says, which is fine because I write little charts and tick them off. So that's definitely brilliant TV knitting, because you can just knit away and watch a film or watch the telly. It's great. Okay, so that's that jumper, so I'll probably show you that in another 2 or 3 episodes once I've done quite a bit more progress, because there won't be much point. I'm going to do the next sleeve next. Not much point showing you that because it's just the same. So I think once I've started the front or the back, whichever you do first, I'll show you some more progress on that. I might put it on Instagram. So that's that. I'm really excited to have it. It's going to be, is it a polar neck? Yes, it's a polar neck, so I need a polar neck jumper. It's getting cold, I definitely need one. I'll probably wear that to work, it'll keep me nice and toasty. Is that all? Oh no, it's not all my knitting. Okay, I've got some more knitting to show you. I really need a drink. I might go and see what the postman brought and get a drink. I'm going to just go and see what the postman brought, and I'm going to get a drink and come back and show you my Selbu mittens. Okay. Oh, I'm back. I've got my favourite drink, which is cold drink, which is rhubarb and apple by Corsten Press. It's gorgeous. I'll just use my coaster so I don't make a big noise. Yes, the postman came and he brought some boring stuff. He brought the Boden catalogue, which is quite nice, I'll look through that later, and he brought my apple corer, which this week I've been really into making dried apple rings. Dead simple, you probably already know how to do this, but all you do is you get a lovely tangy apple. So I've been using Cox's or Rayburn's, a really nice British variety that's in season. You take the core out, and up until today I have not had an apple corer. I didn't have the right tool, so I've just been sort of stabbing it out with the knife, which sometimes makes a mess. And sometimes you split the apple in half, which is no good because you don't get rings then. And then you put the apple on its side and you just slice really thinly, keep the skin on, lay the apple rings on or slices onto a big baking tray with some greaseproof paper or parchment underneath them, and then just literally dry them out in the oven. You don't have to, you're not cooking them, you're just drying them out. So put the oven on as low as it will go, and you leave them in there for a couple of hours. It's totally worth it. They are gorgeous. They're a lovely snack. It's like having sweets and crisps all in one, but totally healthy. And I'm wondering, you might be able to sprinkle a bit of cinnamon or something on them. I haven't tried that yet, because I just love them just as they are. I don't think there's any, for me, there's nothing that needs doing to them, but maybe if you wanted to add a bit extra, you could put a bit of cinnamon on. But you don't have to add anything else. There's no sugar, there's nothing. It's just totally, totally healthy. It's just a really lovely way of eating an apple. So that's what I'll be doing later. I also bought a slicer, like a mandolin slicer. They weren't very expensive, but I just thought I want to make loads of dried apple rings. I might even try hanging them on a string over the wood burner in the evening, because that's safe for putting the oven on, and see if I can make them that way as well. If I do, I'll put a little video in at some point and put it on Instagram, if I'm successful with that. But in the meantime, it works really nicely in the oven. So I'm going to be doing that later with my new apple ring maker, kind of apple corer and slicer. I'm very excited about that. I took a tub of them to the knitting club on Thursday. I go to knit night on Thursday. Normally, well, there are the cakes and biscuits, and sometimes I take a cake that I've baked, and other people do, they bring things too. And there's usually just loads of lovely treats all over the table. I'm the Jaffa Cake fiend. There's always Jaffa Cakes and I always eat most of them. But some of the ladies prefer not to eat lots of the snacks because they don't like eating too many sweet things. So in terms of cakes and biscuits and stuff. So, which I thought was a bit of a shame, because it's really nice to be able to just snack on something while you're having a cup of tea and knitting. And so I had the idea that I would take some apple rings with me, because that was delicious and it's something that they might be happy eating. And they went down really well. They nearly all got finished, and so I think I might do those again for next week. For this week, it's this week, it's on Thursday. And hopefully they'll be a bit neater than the last ones were. Shall I show you? Oh, I'll show you my Selby mittens, because that's what I said I'd do. So the last time I showed you, I'm still on my first pair. I've bought the bundle of patterns. I'm in the Selby Mitten Club. I have not been interacting in the Ravelry group though, because I'm rubbish. I might have made 1 or 2 comments. I definitely haven't posted any pictures, so who knows. Hopefully I will do that at some point. But here is my finished first Selby mitten. Last time I showed you this, I think I was up to about here, or might have been near the top, but it's still on the deep ends, and I hadn't done the thumb. So there's the thumb. I've done it now. Ta-da! I'm really proud of it. It's come out quite large actually. I'll put it on and show you. And there are a few mistakes which I'm just going to keep in, because this very first pair of Selby mittens I'm going to be just hanging up on the wall, and I'm going to be able to look back on them, hopefully, once I've knit the rest of the patterns in the bundle, and hopefully I might see some improvement. So if you have a look at the top here, you can see how the pattern went a little bit awry. I must have just been watching the telly and not concentrating on the colour work chart at that point. So I'm just going to leave it in, because, like I say, this is going to be a sort of warts and all project. It's not a very nice way to say, is it? But well, that's went wrong. I found that bit tricky, picking up those stitches there. So I had to do that 2 or 3 times. So I hope I get neater at that. I've used the same cast on for the second mitten in this pair. And I'm now thinking, it's too late to change it now, so that's fine, but I'm now thinking that the next pair that I make, when you cast on the, at the point where you put your thumb gusset stitches onto a holder and you cast on these stitches here so that you can carry on up the mitten, I'm going to try using a different cast on. I used the thumb cast on, and it gives you, it's a perfectly good cast on, but if you've got to pick stitches up from it, and they've got to look neat and correspond colour-wise to the stitches that you're then going to knit, and the stitches that are there already, if you know what I mean, it's not the best choice of cast on, I don't think, so I'll try a different cast on next time. Any tips fully appreciated. Here's the second mitten, so I'll show you a close-up of the cast on actually in a second. There's a curious thing that's happened here. It's not that curious, but it's quite a lot thinner than the first one. I'll do that so that you've got a good comparison. There we go. So this one must be at least a couple of centimetres I'd say, in circumference bigger than the second one. I'm putting that down to the fact that as I've knit, my tension's just become tighter with practice. That's the only thing I can think of. It could be because, as you probably noticed, I have reversed the colours. So that's the white background with the red motif, and that's the red motif with the white background. I really love that look, so that's what I wanted to do, just for fun. It could be because the main colour for this is the red, and it's the DK weight of the Jamieson's not Spindrift. Is it Spindrift if it's DK? It's the DK weight of the Jamieson's anyway, Shetland yarn. And the white colour, I said this in the last podcast, I keep saying that today, I forgot to buy the DK weight and ended up getting the 2-ply, 4-ply, the smaller weight anyway, yarn, so I'm holding it double, which maybe it makes a slightly thicker yarn. So I'm thinking, because that's the background colour for that one is the white, and therefore the base is the white or the greyish sort of colour. It could be why that's a little bit bigger than that one. Could be to do with the yarn weights being slightly different, or it could just be that I've got more used, as with anything new, the more you do it, the more you settle into your right. With knitting, the more you do it, the more you settle into your gauge and your tension. So because this is a new technique for me, that was my beginning gauge, and this maybe is my actual gauge. We'll see as I knit more pairs, we'll see how it works out. Don't mind that the different sizes, won't stop me wearing them, but like I say, I think I want to hang these up and just display them anyway. I'll put this on. Oh, got a needle jabbed through it there. So I've got my thumb gusset stitches on hold. There's the cast on edge here. So that's where I've just used the thumb, and you're casting on in 2 colours according to the chart. So you're carrying yarn. Normally it would be a really neat cast on, but because you're carrying yarn, you've got floats across your cast on. I think that's made it not so neat, and I think it would be better for me to try a different technique of casting on for the next pair, just to see if that makes a difference. Like I say, if anybody knows the secret of that, please let me know. What can I say about these? I don't think I've made mistakes in the colour work chart for this one, which is good, because I did in the first one. I really love it. I love the red with the white motif. I still need to work on my tension. There's still some slightly dodgy areas, but I think I'm getting better. And of course I'm wondering if blocking will just even things out a little bit more as well, so we'll know that once I've finished. Not sure if I'll show you these again on the podcast, because I'm going to have quite a few Selby mittens in the making as the podcast episodes go on. But when I finish these, I might just put a little Instagram story, or perhaps film them so that you can see them finished and put them in the intro to the next podcast if they're finished by then. Hopefully they will be. Yeah, so that's being knit in Jamieson's, which I think I've said already. And again, I've showed that in more detail in the previous episode of the podcast. Just wanted to show you the progress on those. I am also going to be knitting the Pumpkin Spice Latte mittens by Skein Deer Knits, whose design are all of the Selby mittens are her designs. So myself and my friend Eva, who's from my knitting group, and my friend, we've decided to knit the pumpkin spice latte mittens together, and I put a picture on Instagram to show the yarn that I got, which is where? Wait, I'll get it. I haven't showed it. Okay, so originally I ordered this yarn, and if you know the pumpkin spice, if you know this yarn and you know that pattern, you will know why this is wrong. But I didn't realise, it took me a while to realise. But that's the yarn I ordered to begin with. Technically this is a DK weight yarn, and all of the Selbu mittens are DK weight. They're written for DK weight yarns. So these ones, and all of the ones in that club are in DK weight yarn. And because I was kind of totally well into making those that's fabulous English, isn't it? Anyway, because I was sort of halfway through making those and really into making my Selbu mittens, I think I was just thinking everything's double knit. So I went on to the Ysolde website, which is marvellous. If you haven't seen that website, go and have a look at it. It's a beautiful website, and she's got the most lovely rustic yarns. Everything on that website is perfect for colour work. I got some more yarn, but I won't show you that today because I've got some other stuff to show you, and that will make the podcast too long, but I'll show you that when I use it. Anyway, I got that, and then I realised it could have been Eva that pointed it out to me, I'm not sure, that it's the wrong weight. So I can use those for some of the Selbu mittens, so it's no loss, it's fine, it's perfectly okay. And the yarn is beautiful, I really like it. There's loads of colours in that Rauma, I think you call it. That's not how you pronounce it, but anyway. So, when I realised, I went back onto the Ysolde website and I had another look for fingering weight yarn, which is what you need for the pumpkin spice latte mittens. And I went on one of the recommendations actually from the pattern, so one of Ellie, who is Skein Knits, and the designer of these patterns. She's put a few yarn recommendations, which is really helpful. And yes, the Ysolde website actually sold this yarn, so I went with that because I really loved the colours, I love the look of the yarn, I love the label, and it's called Tuku wool, or however you pronounce it, and there is the label. And I got the colourways Sake and Repo. So I'm hoping you can see those. Give you a nice close-up of the actual yarn. So this is for the pumpkin spice latte. That was my ankle cracking if you heard it. Didn't hurt, just wasn't very nice to hear. This is the pumpkin spice latte mittens. I'm totally in love with this yarn. I just love it in its skein form. I was torn between this colour and a sort of beautiful raspberry wine colour, but I did want to make them in a really sort of spicy orange colour, so I went with this. And also Eva has got a cone of yarn for hers. She's going to do hers in, oh, what's her other colour? Contrast colour. Oh, she's got a lovely combination of colours. When she's, actually I think when she's knit hers, when we've done them, if Eva doesn't mind, I might ask her if I can borrow them and show hers, because I'm so excited to see how they turn out, because Eva has chosen a really beautiful, quite like a pumpkin coloured orange, yellowy orange, for her contrast, and she's got this beautiful cone of yarn which is like that sort of plum raspberry wine kind of colour, and when you see them together you wouldn't be sure if they would contrast well enough, but she's knit a small sample and it's amazing. It looks really, really brilliant, so I can't wait to see her mittens being knit up in her choice of yarn as well, so I'm really excited about that. So hopefully Eva, you will let me show them on the podcast if I borrow them. Anyway, and that's what mine are going to be knit in. I'm not sure when we're going to cast them on, but we're going to cast them on together. We're going to have a cast on afternoon with the wood burner on. Maybe I'll make some apple rings for it. Perhaps we could have some hot chocolate. It's going to be lovely. Okay, right, I'm nearly there. I have been sewing. I showed you some fabric in the last podcast episode, and that might have been really noisy when I did that. Sorry, not sure if that was noisy, just did it again. I showed you some lovely fabric in the last podcast episode, and I've been totally loving using it. I'm completely in love with this fabric, and I want to make curtains in it and drape all my sofas in it, and it just makes me feel so Christmassy. I told Avion I'm really feeling Christmassy, even though it's too early to say that word, and normally I don't even want to hear that word until mid-December. I definitely don't want to see adverts on the television to do with it. That's definitely not what I want, but I've just got that lovely seasonal wintry feeling. I think because the weather's become nice and crisp and a little bit frosty in the morning, all the colours outside are just so beautiful. We've got the golden yellows and the oranges and the browns on the trees, everything, all the leaves are falling. We've got beautiful red berries everywhere we look. I might gather some of those actually, because I'm going to do a wreath next week with my stepmom, which is going to be exciting. And of course it's Halloween, so we've got pumpkins everywhere. Here's my pumpkin, by the way. Oh, I've got a pumpkin. I'm going to hopefully carve this later. I just brought that up to show you quickly. I'm carving it later. I've been on Pinterest to have a look at creative pumpkin carving. I'm not sculpting it into a weird face. I'm just going to do some pretty folk patterns on it or something, hopefully, if I can be bothered. Avion wants me to make soup with it, but I'm going to carve it. Anyway, what I was saying was I'm feeling really seasonal, and this fabric has been making me feel extremely Christmassy. Sorry to anybody who feels it's too early to talk about it, but I'm just going to talk about it because what I'm going to show you next is very Christmassy. But I think it's important for me to get ahead on this because this, you can probably, can you see it already? I'm spoiling it. This is for the shop. This is for the Etsy shop, and I want to make a few this week and put them in the Etsy shop so that if there's anybody overseas who wants to order it, it will be in the shop in plenty of time for you to order and for it to reach you and arrive to far-flung destinations. So it's bunting. I've changed the shape. I'm doing triangular bunting this time. Have I sold one? Of course I've done my tea time bunting on, yeah, I've been selling the tea time bunting, but that's square shaped, but this is triangular. Here's my sample. My lovely friend Jo from in my Ravelry group sent me lots of these little stars, and I'm going to use these. They're actually I bought quite a few more. I found some more on the internet, and I bought a job lot of them, basically quite a lot of them, about 100 or so, maybe more. Because I've put one on each letter for what I'm going to show you. So I needed to buy more, even though I already had loads. But what I'm going to do is use the larger ones. They're not the same size, so what I ordered were quite small, but still perfect. So I'm using the small ones because I've got more of those. I'm totally rambling. For the bunting letters, and the larger ones, which is this size, I will show you in a minute because they're going to be featured on the bags that I've been making. So there is my little prototype, and I'm not sure how possible it's going to be to show you this. I'll have to do it in sections. I may put a video because I've had it strung up on the wall. I might have to do a video to show you it a bit better than this, but this is the Merry Christmas one. And the little sort of tinkling is the sound of the star buttons. Okay, does it say? Yeah. Okay, so this is the Merry Christmas one. So I'm really hoping that you can see some letters there with the red bias binding. I'll do this. I mean, you know how to spell Merry Christmas. If you've seen one triangle, you've seen them all really. It's really long. I'm going to list these in the Etsy shop. I will put the measurements on. You will need a long wall space to put this up. I noticed on Pinterest when I was looking for some inspiration, some people make Merry Christmas bunting with the word Merry and then Christmas underneath. So I was thinking of maybe doing that as well. It's possible that some people haven't got, maybe they want to put the bunting into a smaller space. Like I couldn't obviously put this onto the dresser here, it's just too long. So I might do a couple of versions possibly where the words are separate, Merry and then Christmas, and you can get them separately and then hang them one under the other possibly. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. But I think the majority of them will just be one big long string like this. And a little close-up for you. Whoops. Try not to dip it in the tea. Let me just move that. There's a bit of tea left in there. Don't worry, I didn't dip it in the tea. Okay, so there's a close-up for you. There's that little star. It's just got a slightly smaller star. It works really nicely. And the back is basically the reverse colour. So, oops. There's the front and there's the back. It's not a very good way to show it. Hang on, let me do that. No, can't work out how to do it. Yeah. No, that's not good. Anyway, there's the back. That didn't work. So it's red on the white. It's the same fabric, it's just reversed colours. It's a bit of a theme for this podcast, isn't it? Red and white reversed, like my gloves. And yeah, the bias binding is just stitched all the way to the end and then knotted, so you've got a loop. You could take the loop out if you wanted to, if you want to just tie this on something. Or you can use the loop to put it on a hook. So I've got a Merry Christmas. I'll just try and keep it flat, so it's nice and neat. I don't have to iron it again. And I have done a Welsh version. Whoops. I've done Nadolig Llawen, which is the Welsh for Merry Christmas. So if anybody out there is Welsh speaking or has Welsh roots or knows anybody who would appreciate Nadolig Llawen bunting, that I sold two last year that went to America. The people who bought them were going to give them to friends who had Welsh roots in their ancestry, so that's Nadolig Llawen. It's just nearly as long, not quite as long, obviously it depends on how many letters there are, but that's that one. So I think I'll list probably 2 Welsh ones, because I'm thinking obviously there will be more. I'm thinking there'll be more call for the Merry Christmas, just because not that many people speak the Welsh language in the world, but I want to offer it because I live with a Welsh speaker and I live in Wales and I live in an area where the Welsh language is the people's first language, so I'm honouring that. And oops, I'm folding it so I can put it away neatly. So that's the Nadolig Llawen. Sounds so beautiful when you say it. Such a lovely language. Okay, so that's my bunting. So that will be listed. I don't know how I'm going to photograph it actually. I've got to work out how to photograph that, and it will be photographed and listed in the Etsy shop sometime this week. I can't say, I'm not going to say a specific day because sometimes I do that and then I don't get around to it. Things always take longer than I think they're going to, but it will be in this week sometime. So just have a look, just have a little check in there at some point, and I'll get that that bunting into the Etsy shop. I've only made one of each at the moment, but I will be making more, so just keep checking the Etsy shop to see. I'll put it on Instagram when they've been listed. And also, just lastly, I think this is the last thing I'm going to just show you quickly. It's shop things. Are my bags. So I showed you the fabric last week, and this is the sort of Christmassy style bag that I'm going to be making quite a few of and popping in the shop as well. Made in the same fabric. I'm totally loving these. I probably will do some larger sizes as well. This is the smaller size. So that's the front, same at the back. Oh, a little thread hanging out, there we go, got rid of it. And I've put a little star pull, zip pull on it. I've made these myself. They've got a little jump ring. This is the same with most progress keepers. Technically it's a progress keeper, but it's a zip pull as well. I'll just show you it close up, just to show you. I don't know if you can see, but it's attached to the little clasp by a single little ring. And the ring is, you just basically open it with pliers and then close it again. So I just want to say, you can take this off if you want and use it as a progress keeper. You can just use it separately. If you want to use it as the zip pull, because I will attach them to the zip, I don't recommend just pulling the star, because I would be afraid that you might just pull the clasp open. So if you're going to use it as a zip pull, hold on to the clasp and the zip end as well. It just gives you that extra little bit of something to hold on to, but don't just hold on to the star, because you might just open up the little ring and pull it off and it will break. So just be careful with it if you're going to use it as a ring pull, and just use the zip. Just hold the zip as you would normally. Really it's just decoration on the bag. But of course, like I say, you can take it off and use it as a stitch marker. No, progress keeper. Oops. Come on, open up. I'll show you the inside. So inside, it's got the white with the red pattern on, fully lined. Now, I haven't put lavender bags in these because lavender's not very Christmassy, beautiful and lovely as it is. I've put the little zip pull, the progress keeper on instead. So these ones aren't going to come with lavender because that's not Christmassy. Also, I had this thought. I have actually sent a bag to Australia, and it did get there okay. But and I've sent bags to America and Canada and other places. Most things I've got there. I've had 2 things go missing in the whole of my Etsy history, and I've rectified that. They haven't turned up. I just simply sorted out the problem by sending some more. Which isn't really my policy, but I did that anyway, but because I don't want the customer to have nothing, that's awful. But it has occurred to me that some countries might not accept, might not let the tea bags and the lavender through, because normally when I package up a bag, normally, not these ones, but normally there's a little lavender bag inside, which I make out of the squares that you cut out when you make the box bottom. So it's got a little lavender sachet in it, and I always put a tea bag in, a sealed tea bag. And I don't usually write lavender on the label, because I don't think it's relevant, but I usually write tea bag. But for one package I sent recently, I had written the word lavender. For some reason, I just wrote it on, that it included lavender. And the lady at the post office said, for the country where it was going, she said, they won't let that through customs, they'll just destroy it. And the funny thing is, that was the second time I was sending that parcel, because the first one had got lost in the post and hadn't arrived. And I wondered if it's because of the lavender or of the tea or both. And she said technically the lavender will be seen as seeds, so it could be that they've scanned the first parcel that went missing, they've seen that, and they're thinking that I'm sending seeds to a country where they don't accept that sort of thing through the customs, and it's just been destroyed. Camera cut me off there, and yeah, so it's possible, it's very likely actually, that the parcel had just been destroyed. So I sent the second parcel by tracked and signed service, so that is going to be a lot safer. And I sent it without the tea and without the lavender, so hopefully everything's going to be okay on that one. But what I'm thinking is maybe not sending lavender to places like America. I don't know if America, I think America's okay, and Canada. I've sent a lot of bags to America and Canada, especially America, and nothing's gone lost and nothing's failed to get through customs, so I think that'll be okay. But if I'm sending anything to Australia or to any other countries who have very strict customs regulations, Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, I don't know what the other countries would be, but some countries have got very, very strict customs regulations on things like tea and food being sent, which really, seeds and food, anything like that. Tea bags and lavender fall into those categories, which I haven't really realised, which is a bit silly of me. So if you are in such a country and I'm going to send you a bag, I might just send you a little message to say that I won't be including the tea and the lavender. They're only extras anyway, they're not something that you pay for, it's the bag you're paying for. and it's purely to make sure that it gets through customs okay and doesn't get lost in the post or get destroyed by some customs man who didn't like the seeds to the lavender. Anyway, that was quite a long story, just to say be careful about sending lavender to places because it might not get there. This one has got lavender in it, so if you're in Australia and you buy this, I might have to take the sachet out. There's a little sachet. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's the next bag with this beautiful, oh, it's the wrong way around, beautiful Tilda bird fabric and blue box bottom and piping. It's got a nice gold zip, it's got interlining, so they're fairly sturdy, these ones. The zipped ones I put interlining in because I quite like that. And that's got the blue fabric inside as well. I love these fabric combinations, I'm really pleased with that. So there's a couple of those. There's that one and that one's the same except for it has an orange zip. There we go, that one's just got an orange zip. So there's two of those and the label's on the other side for some reason, but that's okay, it makes it individual. Another Christmassy one, it's exactly the same. I think I'll make some of the Christmassy ones in that size as well because some people might want to do a larger Christmassy project. And then I've got some drawstrings in the bird fabric, there's two of those, and that's got the blue inside. These are not interlined, they're just lined. They haven't got the sturdy interlining in, they're just floppy. I like the drawstrings to be nice and sort of floppy and scrunchy. They fit into your bag nicely, so there's two of those. And then this, ooh, this fabric, I've been dying to get my hands on this for ages. I finally took the plunge and bought some. I bought enough to make 2 bags, so there's only 2 of these available, but I might get some more of this fabric because I love it so much. It's by Dashwood Studios, so there's 2 of these, they're identical, and it's got this beautiful, the lining is the Dashwood fabric as well. Birds. And this is what we're seeing at the moment. All these lovely birds flying in their murmurations, I think they're called, aren't they? They're definitely flying like this over the farm at the moment. This is quite a seascape, I think. It reminds me of the beach. Where I come from, you see these amazing murmurations at this time of year, and it's just beautiful. There must be thousands of birds flying around in the air, making all these beautiful different shapes. It's just amazing. But we've got this on the farm as well. There's a load of starlings who flock into the tree, and then they swoop down and around the grass, making all these beautiful shapes, and I watch it out the bedroom window and I wake up. It's lovely. You can sit there with a cup of tea watching the birds flying around. So that's what this reminds me of. Don't know why I'm showing you that because it's identical to the one I've just shown you. They will be going in the shop, and hopefully alongside some more, which will be in the same fabrics, there'll just be more of them. Yeah, I'm going to stick with those because I need to keep things simple at the moment because I'm not very focused because I've had a very busy life the last few weeks, and yeah, I need to keep it rather simple. But I'm excited about that because those are all new fabrics and I've totally loved using those beautiful fabrics. I just have to photograph all of those now and get them onto Etsy. So if you're interested in those, have a look a little bit further on in the week. It's Monday now. Probably by the time this podcast comes out it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday because it'll take me a while to edit it. I haven't done any intro bits of footage yet, but I might do a little bit this afternoon around the farm. Actually, I might be lying as I'm saying this because obviously the intro will be before you see all of this, but I might just do it a little bit later on. I went to Gwydir Castle. I've completely just jumped straight into something totally different there, but at the weekend me, Nerys and Eva went to a local castle called Gwydir Castle, and we've been meaning to go, or me and Nerys have been meaning to go for a really long time, and then I asked Eva, would you like to come? Yes, that would be great. So we all went together. We caught the last opening day of the season. They will now be closed for the rest of the autumn and for the winter, and they'll reopen in spring. So we're really lucky that we caught it on the last day. And It's a small admission fee, and you basically can just go in and have a look around this beautiful castle. They ask that you don't take any photographs or video inside the castle, which is a real shame because it's amazing. It's just like stepping into, well, it is not like, it is, you actually are stepping into a medieval building. What's easy to say? It's completely medieval, and it's just, it's as if you step back in time. I said to Eva as I was walking around, it doesn't feel like when you're walking around something that's like a National Trust property, because they've got lots of people in each room who are watching their visitors, you know, looking after all of the, looking after each space. There's lots of ropes everywhere, and it's all very sort of polished and very, what's the word, highly presented, not to take anything away from Gwydir Castle. I loved the way that it was quite rustic. The couple that own the castle actually live in it, and I mentioned it quite a long time ago on the podcast because I bought the book written by the owner called Castles in the Air, and if you are interested in reading a novel, which is a documentary really novel about a couple's journey of their restoration of this beautiful castle, then I really recommend that book. It's called Castles in the Air. And why is he saying that? Oh yeah, they live there. They have functions there. The day before there'd been some sort of function there, I don't know what. I'm pretty sure that things have been filmed there as well. They're on Facebook, so you can have a look on Facebook to see what goes on there. But it's quite rustic. Basically, they've got a few ropes over some of the chairs so you don't sit on them and break them. But apart from that, and there's a couple of rooms where they've got a rope across and you can just look in but not go in. But you can see it all really well. But apart from that, there's not too much interference with the space as such. So you just feel like you've just stumbled across this medieval castle. And I say castle, it's more like a mansion really. It's called a castle, but it's a mansion. And it's just completely amazing. I've only taken a bit of footage of the outside because you were allowed to take photos outside, so I might have put that into the intro. I probably have. I'm going back in time. I'll probably put that in the intro. They've got peacocks in the grounds as well, which were amazing. And one of them displayed all of his feathers for us, which was great. We were thinking the peacocks are molting because they didn't have the really long tail feathers. They just had short tail feathers. Do peacocks molt? I'm thinking they probably do. We didn't find any of the lovely long feathers on the ground, unfortunately. But we saw lots of peacocks and peahens, and they're all beautiful. So it was a lovely afternoon. And yeah, that was lucky to be able to catch that because I've lived here 5.5 years and I've been meaning to go to that place all of that time. And I've read the book, so it was brilliant looking through it and looking at the different rooms that I've read about. And just, yeah, seeing the place from the novel, which is brilliant. I say novel, it's not a novel. Anyway, so I had a lovely time. So I might put that in the intro. That was what I was talking about, the intro. Apart from that, don't know if there's going to be much else in the intro this podcast episode, because I've been too busy to do any recording. But I might be completely lying and I might have done some recording and put you an intro in. Don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I might do an outro instead. Don't know. Or I might not. Hopefully the podcast is enough for you. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up now because I feel like I'm waffling. My lips are getting dry. And... oh, it's only 11:15. I thought it's lunchtime. Okay, I'm going to go get some yoghurt. Yeah, I'm going to have a yoghurt and a decaf coffee. That'll be lovely. And then take Charlie for a nice walk, I think. That's what we're going to do. And this afternoon, I'm going to be editing the podcast. I will take the time this afternoon to do that. I'm looking forward to that because I'll have a nice hot cup of apple and cinnamon tea. I'll have my toe warmers in. I didn't show you these. These are lifesavers. If you've not heard of these are amazing. They're actually natural as well. It says on the packet that they're natural, they're safe for the environment. They are disposable, so that's not the greatest part of it, but they're made of natural products, they're not chemicals. And they're called Little Hotties, and I've got them in my slippers. They're just like a half moon shape, no, a half circle shaped sticker basically that I can't take it out of the packet to show you because that will activate it and it'll get hot, and I don't need this pair today. You stick them onto your socks or into your shoes, in the sole of your shoes. I wear them every day at work because it's cold. Keeps my toes warm, and I've got them in my slippers now. It's brilliant. If you get really cold feet, I definitely recommend those. Don't know why I was telling you about those. Don't even know why I had it up here. Why did I have that here? Anyway, that's enough from me. I wish you a lovely week. Hopefully you'll have some beautiful autumn weather. Hopefully you'll do some lovely knitting by your fire. Try doing apple rings, totally recommend it. Get some chestnuts, I've been roasting those on the fire as well, delicious. So I wish you a lovely happy week of knitting and autumny weather if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. And I hope to see you in the next podcast episode, and goodbye for now. Bye!